After our school visits and meetings, it's clear that our path to reform centers around three pillars. Number one, we have to put a highly effective teacher in every classroom. Secondly, we must give parents and students an equal opportunity in education. And third, we must give school leaders more flexibility to spend their dollars on policies that improve student achievement. Now, these seem fairly common sense and non-controversial, but when you actually look at the policies we have adopted throughout the years, many times they stand in contradiction to these stated goals. Now, the good news is over the last 4 years, we've already taken steps to meet these goals. For example, we created the red tape waiver to help local school districts cut through red tape and provide schools with the flexibility they need to improve student performance. We started the student-based budgeting pilot to put decisions about dollars in the hands of people closest to students. We passed a new value-added teacher evaluation system that gives personalized feedback on student achievement to teachers. We adopted the Common Core state standards, which will raise expectations for every child. We created the scholarship program in New Orleans to give parents of students at failing schools more opportunity to meet their children's needs. We expanded the number of charter schools, and we supported the significant growth of the Louisiana virtual school. Now, that is the good news. Now, I've said this often, we are certainly moving in the right direction, and that is the good news. But here is the challenge. We have to move much, much more quickly. Even without progress, 44% of our schools are still receiving D's and F's. On national metrics like the National Assessment of Educational Progress, we're in the bottom 5 states in 4th and 8th grade math and reading. Now, I could certainly go on about rankings, and I could certainly make the case in greater detail about the need for urgency to reform our schools, but I think it's fairly self-evident. I think it's fairly clear that we need to move faster, and we need to do it now. And let us remember this, our children don't have time to wait. There will be people after they hear all these reforms will say we need to slow down, we need more time, you need more money. Our children only grow up once. They only have one chance, one shot to receive a quality education. We simply can't wait for another generation of students to graduate from high school unprepared for the workforce and higher education, or to drop out even before they get there. And by the way, this applies not only to K through 12 education, but to early childhood education as well. The plan that I'm going to share with you today to improve our schools encompasses early childhood education and K-12 education. And it does 3 things. It empowers teachers, it empowers parents, and third, it empowers our school leaders. Let me start with empowering teachers. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Teachers are the backbone of our educational system. They are the heart and soul of what makes our schools run, and we should be celebrating them, promoting them, and telling them how much we appreciate their service. Now, that's why over the last 4 years we've taken the following steps to support our teachers, including instituting a teacher pay raise that brought the average teacher salary up to the SREB average, creating a teacher's Bill of Rights and stronger discipline laws to support teachers in the classroom, signing a law to prohibit teachers from completing duplicate, burdensome paperwork to decrease the amount of time a teacher spends on paperwork in the classroom, expanding the Teacher Advancement Program, a teacher merit pay model that has been shown to improve teacher effectiveness. Louisiana is one of just 3 states to have an extensive program. And then finally creating a new value-added evaluation system, which actually evaluates teachers on the one metric that matters, student achievement. We've established strong building blocks to make sure we have a great teacher in every classroom, but we need to do much, much more. Having a highly effective teacher, the impact on a student cannot be emphasized enough. In a recent op-ed in the New York Times, Nick Kristof asked this question: what should you do if your child's terrific 4th grade teacher decided to retire? His response: you should hold a bake sale, you should go door to door, you should come up with a $100,000 bonus to get that teacher to stay. Why? Because the potential impact that that teacher will have on your child's future income far exceeds that sum. In other words, it would be a good investment of your dollars. But the opposite is also true. Kristof says it makes much more sense to pay a bad teacher a $100,000 buyout to get them to leave the classroom and to replace them with merely an average teacher, because the future income loss for your child will be far greater if they stay in that teacher's classroom. Those kinds of numbers are astounding, but they reveal the heart of new research recently released from a group of Harvard and Columbia professors. They found that having a good 4th grade teacher makes your student more likely to go to college and less likely to get pregnant as a teenager. Think about that. The study found that looking at roughly 2.5 million students over 20 years, that elementary and middle school teachers that are highly effective will have long-lasting, positive economic and social impacts on their students' lives. The bottom line is that having a great teacher can change a kid's life. But I bet you already knew that before you heard about that study or before you read the New York Times. I bet you every one of us can remember that great teacher that you have had, that I had, that made a lasting impact that changed our lives forever. The solution to this problem may seem simple. Let's just replace all the poor performing teachers with excellent teachers, right? Unfortunately, it's not that simple. The current system does not allow us to do that. The current system is holding us back. Let me describe a hypothetical company to you. A company that, by the way, wouldn't last very long, certainly wouldn't be a member of LABI. In this company, the employees, the people are hired by a board. Then they are assigned to their jobs by this board with little input from the person who is ultimately going to be their boss and have to work with them. Once in their jobs, they are told to work hard, but there's no accountability for their performance. Whether they're doing a great job or a poor one, they get no recognition for their hard work. They're treated exactly the same. They're expected to keep working hard, even if they have colleagues who are not working hard right next door. In fact, it gets even worse. They're expected to make up the work that is not being done by their colleagues by working even harder. Now, after 3 years of this, if they've just survived, they are then given lifetime job protection. Short of selling drugs in the workplace or beating up one of their business's clients, they can basically never be fired. They are paid according to how long they've been on the job, regardless of their performance. If they want to advance in their careers, they have to leave the jobs they love and go into administrative positions to make more money. Finally, when their boss tries to remove that coworker who hasn't been doing their job for years, they have to get permission from the board, and then they have to have a public showdown with that employee that usually takes about 9 months to a year and costs thousands of dollars. Having gone through this process once or twice, their boss decides it's not worth it and tries moving his low-performing employees around to mitigate their impact on the overall production of the business. Obviously, this is an absurd way to run a business. It's also an absurd way to run an educational system. And yet this is the system we have today. We don't treat teachers like professionals, denying opportunity and advancement to good teachers. Too often our system today crushes talented teachers, making their jobs harder, not easier. If any actual business was set up like this, they would go under in a matter of months. And that's what's going to happen to our educational system unless we make serious changes and reforms. This is one of the most critical professions we have in Louisiana, and yet we are strangling it by chasing the talent away. No matter if you do a good job or a poor job, whether you teach English or music, teach high poverty or middle class students, we treat everyone the same. No wonder half of our new teachers are not teaching in our public schools 5 years after graduating. This has to stop. We are going to run our educational system and our economy into the ground unless we reform this backward structure today. And that's why we propose to finally recognize good teachers, promoting this profession the way it should be and ensuring that every child has a high-quality teacher. Our plan to empower teachers has new components for both current and incoming teachers. They boil down to two very simple ideas. We are going to create a system that pays teachers for doing a good job instead of for the length of time they've been breathing. And second, we're going to give districts the tools to recognize and keep the best teachers. Before I get into the details of my plan, I want to make one thing very clear about what this means for teachers. I have no doubt almost as soon as I'm done speaking, the Coalition for the Status Quo is going to say my plan hurts teachers and hurts public education. They're going to do whatever it takes to say reform is a bad idea. They're going to argue for the status quo. It's just the opposite. This type of rhetoric is insulting to the people across this state demanding better schools. Teaching is not only one of the most important professions in the world, it's also one of the toughest professions. That's why we want to reward teachers for taking on this important role and give them the tools to succeed and to help our kids succeed. For all teachers, we're proposing 6 specific changes. First, we're going to empower districts to use compensation to keep good teachers by stopping forced pay increases to ineffective teachers, allowing them to pay effective teachers more, and by allowing them more flexibility in how they structure salaries. Second, we're going to ban the practice of using seniority to make personnel decisions of any kind, including ending the practice of last in, first out and reductions in force. instead prioritizing effectiveness. Performance-blind personnel decisions cost money and talent. Third, we're going to empower superintendents and principals and get school boards out of the hiring and firing business. Fourth, we're going to stop blanket job protection in the form of tenure to teachers who are ineffective after 1 year. They will simply return to probationary status. Under our nationally recognized value-added law, districts start dismissal proceedings after 2 years, and teachers lose certification after 3 years of ineffective ratings. Fifth, we're going to give the superintendents, not school boards, the lead role in the public hearing process when he or she decides that a poor-performing teacher should be removed. Sixth, we're going to tie teacher certification to effectiveness, removing the red tape of meaningless federal highly qualified teacher requirements, and we will emphasize effectiveness as we select our teachers and principals of the year. For our incoming teachers, we're going to make 3 specific changes. First, we're going to give districts the flexibility to create their own salary scales based on the elements they believe matter to them, such as effectiveness, hard-to-staff subjects, high-poverty schools, and core subjects. Secondly, we're going to reserve tenure status for teachers that have been highly effective for 5 years in a row. Third and finally, we're going to make the granting of tenure an active process rather than an automatic one so that tenure becomes a reward and recognition given to teachers who have done a terrific job rather than a sign that they have merely survived for 3 years. This is a bold plan and a signal to teachers at all career stages that help is on the way. To all the young teachers out there, if we continue down the current path, you will never get recognized for your talent. You will never be paid what you are worth, and you will have to pick up the slack for your underperforming colleagues. With these reforms, you will finally be recognized for your value, no matter how old you are. To the seasoned veteran teachers who are hardworking and excellent at their jobs, let me tell you about how this system benefits you. Since you are so effective, it doesn't matter that decisions can't be made on seniority because you'll be recognized for your worth. You will have the opportunity to take on additional leadership roles in your school, mentoring your younger colleagues, and be paid for it. To teachers who want to improve, we will finally give you the information, support, and incentives to do better. To mid-career switchers who want to go into the classroom, you can be rewarded from day one for bringing your work experience to bear on your teaching as a truly effective educator. If you are great at what you do, we want you in Louisiana schools. If you are currently enrolled in college or even high school, if you are mid-career and looking for a new opportunity, or you are thinking about retiring, choose teaching. We will recognize you for what you're worth, and we will pay you for it. The second thing we must do, the second group of people that we must empower is our parents. Every child deserves an equal opportunity in education. Many families can help their kids get a good education by moving to an area with good public schools or sending their kids to a private school. The reality, though, is that many families cannot afford to move and are unable to pay for private school. No child should have his or her potential shortchanged because his or her parents cannot afford to move to another town or to drive their child across the parish to find a better option. We know that our children are unique. They learn differently and they need different things. Yet our system is set up so that we treat students all the same. Today we say to parents, tough luck if you happen to live where there aren't a lot of options. We say tough luck if you can't afford to pay to send your student to private school. The current system is unacceptable and unfair. Parents and kids should not be trapped in a failing school because of their zip code, their income, their gender, or their color. Every child has a right to an excellent education. That's the promise of America. We know parents know their children best, yet we have a system that decides what's best for them rather than empowering them to make a choice. And that's why I want to expand choices for parents in 8 specific ways. First, our plan will expand the existing scholarship programs statewide for low-income students at C, D, and F schools. Second, we're going to expand course choices for students by allowing a variety of providers, including school districts, virtual schools, colleges and universities, and businesses with training programs to offer students additional options. Third, we're going to plan our career and technical education regionally to better meet the needs of businesses and to address individual student interests, while also ensuring that students have access to full industry-based certification programs. Fourth, we're going to encourage students who want to pursue a career in science, technology, engineering, or math by making it easier to take high-level coursework, recognizing when they are successful at that coursework, and helping districts to make those courses available. Fifth, We're going to make it easier for high-quality charter operators to expand by fast-tracking operators with proven track records, streamlining the application process, and giving charter schools the same rights to facilities. Sixth, our plan will allow charter operators who want to open schools in districts with grades of D's and F's the opportunity to apply directly to the state. Seventh, we're going to create a rebate for donations made to nonprofit organizations that offer scholarships to low-income students to attend private schools. Eighth, we're going to give a scholarship to students who graduate early from high school equal to 1/2 of the dollars we would have otherwise spent had they prolonged their time in high school. Students will be able to use these dollars as a scholarship above and beyond any other scholarships at the post-secondary school of their choice. Our plan to empower parents will also give them more levers to affect change in their schools. First, we're going to let community organizations, not-for-profits, universities, and other local entities apply to the state to become charter authorizers. They can work directly with charter operators and maintain local control of charter schools in their communities. Secondly, we're going to give parents whose children are at a failing school a parent trigger to affect change in that school more quickly. Instead of waiting until the school has been failing for 4 years, parents can vote to have their school eligible to be a recovery school district charter after 3 years. Third, our plan will hold school boards in failing school districts accountable for the performance of their superintendents by requiring state review of their superintendent contracts to make sure there are performance targets for improvement. Fourth, I'm calling on the State Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to change how we fund students so that dollars follow the child to whatever educational option meets their needs. Fifth, we're going to open up the market to good ideas and allow the entrepreneurs and innovators to make them work. Some of these innovators are working in our districts today, some in our charter schools, and some have not yet entered the market. We know that educating our students is difficult work. We need all the help and smart ideas we can recruit to get the job done. Now let me be clear. This plan is not about pitting school boards versus charter schools or teacher unions versus parents. This is about making sure all parents have an opportunity to get a quality education for their children. There are a number of school districts across the state that are meeting student needs, and there are a lot of school leaders that are thinking outside the box when it comes to doing this in innovative ways. For example, in Calcasieu Parish, they have started an alternative school that has both classes in person and courses online. Districts like Calcasieu could apply to be statewide online providers. Or take, for example, the school district down in Lafourche. They've been looking at new ways to incorporate virtual education into their portfolio of schools to meet the needs of the large homeschool population of that parish. Or take Terrebonne Parish, where they are spending more instructional time in 3rd grade on reading and math fundamentals as building blocks for future success in school. This is the kind of innovation we need to get the job done for our students. Finally, we know how important parent involvement is to student achievement. In my visits around the state, I've heard again and again that parents need to be more engaged. To be clear, schools still have to be held accountable for teaching our students, but parents play an important role too. The parent is a child's first teacher, and high-quality education is a team effort. Just as we need to expand our definition of who provides publicly funded education, traditional schools, charter schools, private schools, virtual schools, or colleges and universities, we need to engage our parents in this important reform. We've listened and we agree, and that's why we're going to do 2 things. First, we're going to let superintendents and principals reward teachers for engaging parents. We know good teachers actively engage parents anyway, and we should reward them for being successful. Second, we're going to give districts more ways to engage parents with federal dollars for tutoring and after-school programs and be rewarded for it, which, by the way, also saves parents money for after-school care. You know, I've talked about empowering our teachers, empowering our parents and their children. The third group we need to empower is school leaders. They know their communities and their students better than folks in Baton Rouge or Washington, D.C. We shouldn't be forcing on them a one-size-fits-all system. Just like each teacher is unique and each student is unique, each school and each school system is unique, whether that be a traditional school, a network of charters, or a private school. If we give school leaders the ability to innovate, then we can improve student achievement at a quicker pace. We have to give school districts the opportunity to compete. That is the idea behind our student-based budgeting pilot that is going on this year in 6 different districts. It gives principals greater control over budgeting decisions in their own buildings so they can tailor their strategies to the student populations they serve. It is also the idea behind the seat time waiver, which lets districts decide how to structure the school day. Today, too often, we count the minutes that children are sitting in seats as if that were really a true indicator for learning. Nationally, we have doubled per-student spending over the last 40 years. In Louisiana, in the last 4 years, the total MFP has increased by more than $300 million. Yet despite all those new dollars, student achievement has stayed flat. The truth is that we know it's not just how much money we spend, but rather how we spend it. To paraphrase, Albert Einstein once said, the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same failed things over and over again and expecting a different result. We need to fund the things that work and the people that can get the job done and stop sending good money after bad to programs that don't work. First, our plan to give districts flexibilities on personnel and compensation will let districts recruit the best and brightest personnel, retain them by rewarding them, and make smart decisions about who to employ so as to maximize their investment in human capital. We know that personnel costs make up the majority of school and district budgets, and that effective teachers increase the future incomes of their students. So the flexibilities I'm proposing will give districts the tools to spend smarter on the people who can raise student achievement. Second, we're going to give districts more flexibility over their federal dollars through applying to waive burdensome federal regulations and let schools spend their federal dollars in the ways that work for them. Third, we are going to reduce federal reporting requirements and more strategically align our interventions in failing schools, including those required by federal law to meet the unique needs of our students. Instead of requiring a one-size-fits-all solution, districts should have a menu of options that work for them. Finally, we need to focus on our earliest learners. Empower the providers of those early childhood services and parents who are looking for the best option for their child. Today, we have nearly $1.4 billion going into publicly funded early childhood education and health care programs, not even including an additional $150 million for Head Start. Yet we have very little idea what kind of quality we are getting with those dollars. What we do know is not encouraging. According to the data we have today, only 52% of children are entering kindergarten ready to learn. Further, those funding streams are disjointed and misaligned, both to one another and to standards that promote kindergarten readiness. The result is we're not leveraging the dollars we have today as effectively as we could, and we're not ensuring that students are receiving high-quality early childhood education. That means that the system is difficult to navigate for the child care center, preschools, and other programs that provide early childhood services, and is difficult for parents trying to use it. We already have some key components to a truly successful, outcomes-based early childhood system. Indeed, we have high-quality models like LA4 and the non-public schools Early Childhood Development Scholarship Program. We have experience with accountability in K-12 that promotes success rather than mandating paperwork, and experience coordinating services across agencies at the state level through the coordinated systems of care. Last year, we established a kindergarten readiness assessment that will, for the first time, tell us if students are entering kindergarten ready to learn, from which programs they came, and where we should look for best practices to learn from statewide. However, we're not using this data today to the greatest extent possible. And that's why we're going to empower our early childhood providers and preschools and our parents by reducing red tape, aligning conflicting standards, and streamlining data to reduce the administrative burden for early childhood providers and to better leverage those dollars. Secondly, creating an accountability system for early childhood programs focused on outcomes and based on kindergarten readiness that gives parents clear, actionable information and a letter grade on which to base their decisions about where to send their child. And then finally, by protecting our taxpayers, by cutting off public funding to low-performing early childhood programs, even pulling licensing from low-performing programs, and aligning our incentive structure through the school readiness tax credits to reward kindergarten readiness. These early childhood education reforms will help us to set high expectations for our students so they will enter kindergarten better prepared. In conclusion, the way forward is to provide more choices to families. It's to reward teachers and to give school leaders more flexibility with funding and personnel. The bottom line is our children only grow up once. We cannot wait for the system to reform itself. It's about more than our kids succeeding inside the classroom. It's about them succeeding in life. You look at any study about healthcare outcomes, incarceration rates, income levels, it all comes back to education. I'm confident that when we institute these reforms, Louisiana's quality of life will improve and our state will become an even better place to start or move a business. Now, I know I've gone very quickly through a lot of specifics and a lot of bold proposals here. I'm sure in the weeks and months of debate coming throughout this process, there are going to be a lot of accusations made, a lot of name-calling. But through it all, we must remember why we are in this fight. It is to give our children a world-class education. Education reform is not about the adults in the building. It is about the students. It is about the children in the building. And that is why we must all need to check our party affiliations, our ideologies, our political agendas at the door when it comes to improving our schools. Giving our kids a quality education should not be a partisan issue. Our kids deserve an opportunity to succeed. It's a basic right that everyone should be afforded in America. I'm proud that for the last 4 years we have outperformed the southern and national economies. But if we want to continue to do so, and we have done that by cutting taxes, reforming ethics, and revamping our workforce training programs, but if we want to continue to outperform the regional and national economies, we must improve our schools. We live in an aspirational society. We live in a country where your fate should not be determined by your last name, by the circumstances of your birth. But the opportunity to receive a quality education is an essential part of the American dream. If we truly want to leave behind to our children the opportunities to pursue an even better quality of life than we ourselves have enjoyed, as every generation before us has done, it is absolutely critical that we improve education right here in the state of Louisiana. The time to act is now. I want each of you to join me in this fight and make the pledge to improve our schools, to give every child an opportunity to get a great education, to make Louisiana the best place in the world to raise a family, to find a good paying job. We should all care about this, whether we have school-age children like I do, whether you have school-age grandchildren, whether you're worried about the employees that you will one day need to hire, whether you're worried about the crime rates and the economic growth in your communities. We should all take a vested interest in improving our schools, and that fight has to start today. I'm asking each and every one of you to make this your top priority as we go into this upcoming regular session. Let's accept nothing lower or less than excellence for the kids of Louisiana. They deserve nothing less than that from us. God bless you all, and thank you all very much for allowing me to come speak to you today.